Well, good evening everyone and welcome to One Hub Racing's Pinnacle tier for season 15. We're at the busy end, or the business end if you like, of the season now. Round 8 of 10 at the absolutely fantastic Spa-Francorchamps circuit nestled in the Ardennes Forest in Belgium. So the podium race is all finished. The precision tier I believe is about halfway through its race, maybe coming towards the depots of that race as well, and in a couple of minutes time we'll be going to the track for the 18-minute qualifying session, followed by 22 heart-stopping laps around the Spa circuit. What the weather will be anyone's guess. You can probably expect maybe changeable conditions such as the way that Spa usually is. We're just waiting for the lobby to fill up. We're missing a few drivers. Hopefully we'll have a nice big turnout. But the main news, of course, is that our two championship contenders, Danny and Louis, are both in here as well. And there is championship permutations, if that's the word I'm looking for. The title could be decided tonight with Louis outscoring Danny, I think, by about 10 or 11 points, taking obviously the fact of fastest laps into account. But I will, of course, touch on both the drivers and the constructors' championships in a minute or so. So it looks like most people are here. We are just waiting for a few. So we might as well then, before we go to the track, talk about the drivers' press conferences and the drivers' briefing, that sort of thing. First and foremost, no penalties, as far as I know, looking at the website anyway, coming across into this tier, so everyone is able to qualify and race as freely as they like. The drivers' press conference then, where there's two of them. First of all, One Hub does the thing where each tier, they call in a driver from each tier, give them a challenging, difficult question, and this week it's Rafa. It was Rafa in the Williams who was called in. I have seen his answer somewhere. Basically, he was asked about your contact with, I believe it was Westy in the previous race, which I weren't here for, so I didn't see that. And I believe Rafa posted the answer on Twitter, not on the website for whatever reason. I think I managed to dig it up, and basically Rafa said, oh well, you know, it is what it is. It's not my fault, basically. So hopefully Rafa keeps it clean tonight, and as does Westy as well. The other one, of course, then is the general questions that get put forward to all the drivers. They can answer if they want to. One of the questions was, are you going to be looking to give your teammate a bit of a tow around Spa? And the best place to do that really is from the exit of La Source all the way up Eau Rouge, Radion, along the Kemmel straight into the Les Combes chicane. Most people that have replied are from other tiers. There are a couple that are in this tier, and they basically turned around, I think it was White Fountain, and turned around and basically said, we haven't discussed it. So White Fountain and Cohen, his teammate, we haven't discussed the possibility of helping teammates along, and in the qualifying sessions I don't think there's been too much of that so far. Certainly there are some tracks out there where you can help your teammate along. Austria is one of them, Italy is as well, Belgium can help along the first sector, but with it being such a long lap here, you don't really want to be held up. So there might be some team play out there in the qualifying session, but I think most people will be going guns and glories all by themselves. So more and more people are now starting to filter their way. Evening to everyone that is slowly coming onto the stream as well. I know the numbers will pick up once the precision race is done in about 15 to 20 minutes time. So we'll be going to Spa here in Belgium. I'm pretty sure that there's going to be some weather changes. I'm also pretty sure there's going to be a safety car if someone unfortunately derps it into the wall. So before we go to qualifying, we might as well talk about then the standings in One Hub Racing. We're coming into round 8 of 10. Like I said, it's the business end of the season. So in the Drivers' Championship at the moment, Louis leads the way for Williams on 144 points. Danny in second place and 102, 42 points behind. So I think if Louis tonight outscores Danny by, I think it's 9 points, 8 or 9 points, then he will be crowned as Drivers' Champion again, as he won the precision tier prestige tier it was last season. So he's a defending champion coming into this season, and he's odds on to take the crown again. But Danny will do everything he can. He missed a race a couple of weeks ago that really did hurt him, as Louis walked away with the maximum 25 points. So that gap really was benefited because Danny unfortunately missed a race. But we know these two regularly qualify at the front of the field, regularly race for P1 and P2. So I'm sure Danny will give it everything he's got to try and make sure that Louis is a crowned champion tonight. So in third place in the championship is Midnight in the Red Bull on 71 points. He's pretty much, that's 73 points out of it. It's between Louis and Danny, let's be honest. In fourth place it's Toxic Tomato, making a move up from McLaren to Red Bull in the last couple of weeks. He now sits in fourth place in 63, and Rafa, who I spoke about earlier, in the second Williams on 59. At the bottom of the standings we have a few down there that were low on points. Cohen in 16th for Toro Rosso's on 4. Hamilton in the Haas is on 2 points, 1 point apiece for Larkin in the McLaren and the second Toro Rosso of White Fountain, and Scott Bugner in the Sport Pisa Racing Point yet to get off the mark, but he did only join a few races ago. In the Constructors, that's not done, but all but done. Williams lead the way, 203 points, Mercedes in second, 144, a point swing of 59. Ferrari a long way back as well, in third place on 83, which just shows how dominating this season's been with the Williams and Mercedes teams. So Ferrari in third on 83, Aston Martin, Red Bull in fourth on 78, McLaren in fifth on 67. Then it's Alfa Romeo 47, Racing Point 36, Renault 30, Haas 28, and a Toro Rosso team propping up the standings on 5 points. And Jess comes on to the stream here, the Pinnacle permutations. Louis needs to outscore Danny by 11 points, 10 if Louis wins. Example, Louis wins, Danny gets third of that fastest lap, Louis would be champion. So it's 11 or 10 points depending on where Louis finishes, and he has to finish ahead of Danny to be crowned champion tonight. So we haven't got any more drivers in. It looks like that we are probably going to be going to the track with just the 16, which is good news for the likes of a Toro Rosso and Haas guys at the bottom of the standings a couple of the times, so they could be battling for the lower end of the points, which I haven't had much opportunity to do. And with it being such a just over 100-second lap here around Belgium in qualifying, I don't suppose we'll be seeing too many people catch up with people in in-laps or out-laps as well. So hopefully qualifying and the race is dry and we can see these drivers go maximum attack. So we're just about to go to the track now, and we'll have a quick look at what the weather is going to throw up for us. Anyone that is of course in the lobby, and it's probably Cohen who usually does it for me, if any drivers out there just watching us could put up in the stream what the weather is going to be for qualifying and the race. I'll be able to tell straight away for qualifying. We'll see the screen, but I won't be able to tell you anymore, and it's nice to know exactly what's going on out there. So we're just waiting now for everyone to sync up nicely. Hopefully there's no disconnections. It looks like we've got 15 or 16 drivers. 16 drivers we have tonight then, so it's a fairly low turnout, but still a decent turnout anyway. I believe there was 16 or 17 drivers in the podium tier, and I think there was only 14 or 15 precision as well. So maybe numbers are starting to drop a little bit more. Of course, the lockdown with the COVID-19 pandemic that's going around has been relaxed a little bit more as well. So more and more people are going out and finding things to do on a Friday evening. So maybe the numbers are slowly going to dip a little bit as well. Of course, there's a few drivers out there that may be having poor seasons, gets towards the end of a season, and they're quite simply can't be bothered anymore. We do see that as well, but we've still got 16 drivers. Hopefully they'll put on a good show. Qualifying dry but overcast at least as the countdown timer clicks on and the green light comes on at the end of the pit lane. Who is it that's going to be on pole position? So bring up all the details that we like to have out there. You see pretty much everyone on the softs apart from Midnight, who's selected the medium straight away. And hopefully we'll be able to see a few cars out on circuit nice and early. 2 or 3 qualifying runs for these guys. There's plenty of time to get 2 in. They might struggle to get 3 fast laps in. They'll have to go out pretty early. We have a Racing Point that's coming out first, so it's either Scott Bugner or Ash Best. And we'll wait to see who it is before we go to them to see a car go around this circuit. And it is Ash Best, so he's the first car out on track. And we're already 45 seconds into this session and we've only got 1 car out there at the moment, so people are possibly biding their time. And the Racing Point out there on the soft tyres then. So he's joined out there by Harry in the Haas. It's quite start to qualifying, so clearly there's no threat of rain in the first few minutes, otherwise the track would be very, very busy. Starting to get a few more cars coming out now. It's Cohen makes his way out on circuit. The second Racing Point of Scott Bugner. Larkin's coming out now as well. Toxic Tomato, Ollie Flavel, Rafa, Westy, Josh. Both the Renaults are out there nice and early as well. So the track slowly starting to fill up. Scott Bugner and now Cohen as well coming down into the Laycom chicane. So it does look very overcast here at Belgium. Pretty much all cars out on circuit at the moment. Louis, White Fountain and Danny. So they're 2 of the quickest guys in the tier and 1 of the slowest still in the pits. And I'm sure they'll be out within the next minute or so as everyone now starts to try and find a little bit of track space for themselves. It looks very busy down here on the exit of the corner with no name. And keep one eye as well on how Toxic Tomato and Ollie are going to go on. Of course, a couple of weeks ago, these 2 exchanged team contracts, if you like. Toxic Tomato was exceeding expectations in the McLaren team. Ollie was not hitting his targets for Red Bull. And so the teams decided to swap them 2 drivers. Ollie was very disgruntled by that. But Toxic, it seems so far anyway, certainly looking at the championship, the way that Toxic is comfortably inside the top 5, Ollie is mired in the midfield. It does look like the good thing to do, the right change between them. Ollie, I think, is still going to be a little bit bitter about that as he now comes up to the bus stop chicane. So we'll take a lap on board with Ollie. He's got a little bit of traffic. That's a tour, so going slowly ahead. You'll see there as they come round to start their flying lap. It's a very wide exit from that bus stop chicane, so they can straighten up the car to get as much speed down this very short straight. You've got yellow flags all over sector 3, as you can imagine, people going slowly trying to find some space. So Ollie then into and out of La Source, up shifting nice and early through 2nd, 3rd, 4th to kill the rear wheel spin. Over to the right hand side past the extra pit complex using the sports car races, and now through Eau Rouge, the left, right, left, and then on the exit of Radion as well, opening up the DRS end for the second bite of Top Speed Cherry as he makes his way down the Camel Straight well into the 210, just about 210, almost clicked into it as his teammate Larkin has retired from the session early. I can only assume he has lost it in Eau Rouge, so an early casualty then in qualifying. Well, he manages to safely negotiate Lacom. Now down to this long right hander, very off camber. You want to stay away from the end, from that curve on the apex, I should say. Over to the right hand side, flick left through the corner with no name, run wide if you can, you don't get penalised for that. Quick burst down to this absolutely fantastic double left hander called Poo, and then throw the car in. You only have to go down 1 gear, you don't even have to brake through there, accelerate all the way through the exit as well. Over to the left hand side then for another right left chicane as we complete sector 2 in a few seconds and move into the final part of this lap, which is pretty much all the way flat out through Blanchimont, and then heavy braking for the bus stop chicane. So through then curve and pull for it, running a little wide there over the curb, but he hasn't had an invalidation. The map hasn't turned red on the right hand side, and he can continue pounding round. Ash Best then, first car out of the pits, first car to set a lap time of 1:43.088. Can Ollie get anywhere near or beat that as a few more cars across the line ahead of him? Over to the left hand side, braking at the 100 metre board, right down into second gear then. Just got a little bit of ERS left, mode number 5 to get the best launch out of the chicane as well. Over to the right hand side, and Ollie early on moves into P2, a 1:43.334. Harry then a 43.6, Scott Bugner 43.9. A few cars coming back into the pits after making invalidations on their first laps. And Midnight then will be probably the first of the main front runners to challenge for pole position, but he won't be doing it this lap. He's on the medium tyres, could be a sighter lap, could be a banker lap. It is indeed a banker lap, so the Red Bull in and out of the final chicane, open up the DRS. The drivers you'll see there will stay to the right hand side. It's ever so slightly shorter to the line. You see the same thing in Canada as well in the qualifying sessions. And Midnight on the medium tyres, there's a very respectable 43.582. And Hercules in the chat, throwing his support behind the Haas driver of Harry. So I'm not too sure what happened to Larkin. I saw his car on the exit of Eau Rouge, so I can only assume he's lost it through there, hit the wall, which is unfortunately something I did in the podium race, but we won't talk about my performance because it didn't exist. And only 6 drivers so far have managed to set a lap time. Lakitu then in the Ferrari goes provisional pole, 43.015. A third of the way through the qualifying session so far, 12 minutes remaining. Overcast conditions here. Toxic Tomato has invalidated his lap. Rafa back out of the pits. Everyone else has completed a timed lap. So Rafa then completely yeets it across the Lacom chicane. And I think overall Rafa will be a bit disappointed with how his season has gone. Sits in 5th place in the Drivers' Championship, don't get me wrong, it's a very respectable position to be in. But he's only on 59 points and he's the best part of 85 behind his own teammate. And he's yet to win a race. He's only had 1 podium so far this season, and I would have expected a bit more from Rafa this season. I think he would have expected a bit more from himself as well. Hopefully he can put the wrongs that he's had this season to rights with a positive end to the season. Danny Vance still in the pits, yet to set a lap time. Same for Louis as well, currently sitting in P8 as it stands. So Cohen out on circuit. He's joined out there by Rafa, Zach and Josh in the Renault. Quiet circuit, very quiet at the moment. There's only 16 drivers here tonight. Not too sure the reason why we're missing 4, but I think all 3 tiers have missed a few drivers. And again, good evening to each and every single one of you slowly filtering your way into the stream. Hope you're enjoying the nice little bit of weather we're having at the moment in the UK, or wherever you are, of course, in the world. So Cohen's got a car close behind him. It's Josh in the Renault. So either Cohen will let him go, or Josh will just slip back a little bit. I think Cohen's got a bit of damage on the front wing there, has he? No, he hasn't. It's just my eyes are deceiving me. White Fountain back out the pits for the second time. The track is fairly quiet at the moment. Only half a dozen cars out there. Ash Best also back out for his second attempt. So I think some drivers have got a choice of either going for 2 or 3 qualifying runs. Ash Best clearly going for 3. This is his second time out of the pits. He's still very quiet at the moment. Cohen then comes across the line to start. Hopefully it will be his first timed lap. His teammate is still halfway around the circuit. Toxic Tomato there as well, just getting in the way, I think, of the Westie. Where's Josh in all this? He's only exiting turn 1, so there's a few cars ahead. Hopefully they won't hold these guys up. Jump on board with Josh, see how he tackles Rouge and Radion. Nice line through there as well. Very minimal directional changes on the steering wheel, trying to keep it as straight as you can and build that top end speed. So we saw 209, 210 from Ollie early on in the session, and 210 again for Josh. It looks like these guys are maxing it out. Purple in sector 1, but we'll ignore that because this is his first time lap. So far nice and smooth. Looks quick this lap. So far, a little puff of smoke there from the front right. Very tricky corner that is as well. It's deceiving for you. You think you can get on the power earlier than you can, and you end up dragging the car wide. Yellow flag in sector 2. It looks like a Ferrari's just going slowly now into Pouron. Again, just lift off the throttle down into 6. There's a sideways Toro Rosso. Oh, there's a huge incident there. Cohen lost control of his car, and unfortunately, whether he was recovering to the track or had no control over it at all, Josh has flown into Pouron, and unfortunately, contact's being made between them. There's going to be yellow flags and debris all over the circuit here. And Cohen then loses the car in Pouron, and Josh creams into the side of him, both of them retiring from the session. That will probably be an incident report filed after this race. And all of a sudden we've lost 3 drivers, as it's currently a Ferrari 1-2. Zach, provisional pole of 42.653. Wow, glad I was on board with Josh then for that, so we can get a clear picture of what happened. Looks like then as we came into Pouron, which is a bit of an unsighted entry to be honest, we saw Cohen, who was ahead of him a couple of seconds, lose control of the car. I don't think he had full control of it as he came back onto the circuit, and unfortunately wrong place, wrong time for Josh. He's made contact with Toro Rosso at very high speed, and it's instantly put them both out of the qualifying session. So early talking points here then, as we got, I think, the Red Bulls giving each other a nice little tow. So the Red Bulls are working together, and Toxic says thank you very much my friend. And these two now are trying to form some sort of a working relationship. Ollie said after his switch from Red Bull to McLaren that him and Midnight had put a good working relationship together. And now it's Toxic and Midnight have obviously been discussing, might be in a party together, might not, might have discussed it before the race, trying to help each other out as best as they can. And Toxic certainly would have got a nice tow there along the Kemmel Straight. And now, because he's ahead of Midnight, he'll do the exact same thing on the next lap when he's on his in lap and Midnight is on his push lap. So good work there by the Red Bull guys, working together to try and move themselves up the field as best they can. We'll jump on board a Toxic Tomato then. I know what set a lap time just yet. He's a race winner already this season, a surprise race win at Austria, crossed the line in P3, promoted to P1 as the 2 ahead of him had time penalties, and he was very surprised by it, but very happy to take down of a race win. More yellow flags out there. I think it's cars just going slowly. 6.5 minutes left of the session, plenty of time for everyone to do another lap or 2, but Cohen, Larkin and Josh unfortunately will be at the back of the field. Toxic into and out of the bus stop chicane. He's done well with the ERS. He's saved up just a little bit there for a quick burst to the line, and what's it going to be? It's provisional pole of 42.536, and that would have been helped massively by his teammate giving him a nice tow. So now we'll jump on board with Midnight as he starts his push lap, and I'll be expecting Toxic. There he is, just ease off the throttle just a little bit on the run up through Rouge and Radion, and Toxic is going to do to Midnight what Midnight done to him and give his teammate a nice tow along the Kemmel Straight. So the Red Bull guys working really well together, and this is a good toe, this is as well. Toxic will jump out the way just before the braking zone as well, and you can see that Midnight 2.13, 14, 2.15, and Toxic jumps out the way at the very end as well, and he's found just over a tenth in sector 1 there, so it's not the biggest of helps, but it's certainly found a little bit of time. So the Red Bull guys working very well together, as Refa now takes provisional pole, 42.518. Finally, the Williams driver finding just a bit of extra pace. So 2 drivers that have not retired from the session, that have yet to set lap times, are championship contenders. Louis and Danny leaving it basically doing a one-shot quali then, unless they both decided to start at the back of the field for banter. So then, Midnight then, negotiating around sector 2. We had yellow flags down in pool, and I think that's just Toxic going slowly and allowing the quicker cars to go past as well. So the sector 2 time will tell us everything. He's a full second up, which was to be expected. He did his first lap on the medium tyres, and now he's on the super sticky soft red wall tyres. And this second will give him a 42.5, which is going to put him right near his teammate and Rafa. So if he can find a little bit of extra speed, and he might have had a nice little toe there from Ollie, his ex-teammate might have unintentionally given him a bit of a speed boost there around Blanchimont and into the bus stop chicane, opening up the DRS. This should be provisional pole. Indeed it is, a 42.393. Red Bull running well here, helping each other out and getting lucky with other toes. Currently sit P1 and P3. Louis then out on circuit now. Danny still in the pits, but I'll be expecting that Mercedes out sooner rather than later. Louis out there on the soft tyres. So we'll bring up then what's best so far fitted. So yeah, everyone clearly then now going on to the soft tyres. So we'll have no surprises inside the top 10. Yellow flags in sector 3, cars just going slowly. So we've got Midnight and Rafa on in lap, same for Toxic Tomato. Harry at the moment is on a push lap. No he's not, his ERS is 0. Well, I'll have a look at his sector 1 time. Is he up? Is he down? What's he doing? He's down by 2 seconds. So Harry is on an in lap. So it's only Louis then that we really need to pay attention to. I think I just saw Danny come out the pits, or was it? No, it was a Ferrari. So apologies there. So Harry and Midnight both on in laps. Louis is the only car at the moment out on circuit. He's going early then for his one shot, unless he's going to come back into the pits now, as it was just a cycle lap. I don't think Danny's been out on circuit at all. I think Louis has done one cycle lap. You can see there Louis just changing the ERS around. So this is going to be a push lap then from our championship leader. Again, wide exit from the bus stop chicane, straighten up the car. Every 10th, 100th and 1000th of a second can help round here. You can see there 42.3 down to a 43.3 is the top 9. It's very busy in that midfield. Westy, Ashbest and Harry in 5th, 6th and 7th are separated by just a 10th of a second. Just 200 separate Rafa and Toxic Tomato from P2 and P3. So Louis then through a Rouge, Radion opening up the DRS. Let's have a look at his top end speed. Highest we've seen is from Midnight with a toe, 2.14, but it's usually 2.9, 2.10 we're seeing. Almost into the 2.11s from Louis. I think most people are running similar setups around here. Skeven comes in the chat. Hello. Good evening to you. Why are you not racing, Skeven? I want an explanation, sir. It's Louis then. Now through sector 1. He's had to change up and down the gears a little bit there. He was running a little wide, the understeer. Now through the corner with no name, a little bit of oversteer, but he's corrected it nicely. Down to P1 now. Down into 6th. Early back on the throttle as well. Hardly any hesitation there. And this is looking like a good push lap so far from Louis. And it's an invalidation, so that's now killed it, and he won't have time. So Louis has now got to spend as much time here saving ERS. You can see unfortunately he's only really got one braking zone, which is the bus stop chicane between here and the end of a lap, so he's got to sort of accelerate, lift off, brake, move up and down the gears to try and save as much ERS as possible. It's going to be difficult him. It's going to be almost impossible, I think, to get up to 100%. He'll get into the 90s, I think, but this is going to be killing his tyre temperatures a little bit. Brakes will be fine. So the pressure's now on Louis. This is what I mean. You should always go out early and do your banker lap, because then if you make a mistake towards the end, at least you've got something to fall back on. Louis at the moment is really going to struggle here. The pressure's now on the youngster. 92% ERS he managed to get up to, so he should just about have enough to complete the full lap. Danny is now out on circuit as well. So Louis then, first mistake of the weekend. an invalidation of what would have been his one-shot lap, and now he has to go again with slightly used soft tyres as well, which if he does manage to qualify inside the top 10 on them, he'll carry into the race. And Skeven, unfortunately, his PS4 has bricked, so F's in chat. So Louis then, now down to the end of Sector 1. No split times because there's no lap time yet from him. How's Danny getting on? He's just warming up, coming into the bus stop chicane. Midnight and Rafa are back out there. Toxic is just starting his final lap as well. Lakitu and Scott Bugner, I believe, are on there. Scott is just a tenth up inside Sector 1. Lakitu is 3.5 tenths up at the end of Sector 2. So we'll stay with the Ferrari driver, see if he can get anywhere close to his teammate. He needs to find probably another 3 tenths in the final sector to do so, but it's looking like he's got an opportunity to get up into 4th or 5th place, but he's made an invalidation and he's going to have to go again with just 15 seconds left and only half a tank full of ERS. So bad news for the Lakitu. They're making a mistake towards the end. Scott Bugner now, what's his Sector 2 time going to be like? We'll keep one eye on Louis. In fact, we'll go to Louis now actually, because he's getting close to the end. So he's running low on ERS, but he's still going, hasn't invalidated. Harry and White Fountain remain in the pits. Their sessions are over. So what can Louis do now? This needs to be the lap of his life. He only had 92% ERS when he crossed the line, invalidating the previous one. Out of the bus stop chicane, open the DRS. Just about had enough. Straight up onto provisional pole of 41.984. He's pulled it out of the bag, and Danny has invalidated. Danny has invalidated his push lap, so Danny will not be setting a time here, and this is all good news for the Williams car of Louis. He's got a good opportunity now to wrap up the title tonight. Where is Midnight in all of this? He's down at the end of Sector 1. Rafa is coming around pool 1 at the moment. Toxic has invalidated, so he's back into the pits. Zach is coming down into curve pool 3. What's his Sector 2 time going to be like compared to his previous best? He's a 10th up and gone purple in Sector 2 as well, which is quite impressive somehow. Westy slightly up on his first lap as well. Ash Best has invalidated. His session is over. Lakitu is 3.5 tenths up, but he's almost out of ERS. He's going to be losing time everywhere now. So Danny's session is over. He's failed to set a lap time. Ollie in all of this is finished for the day. So we'll come back to Zach. What's he going to do as he crosses the line? It's up into P3. Rafa then, next one across the line. Can he improve up onto the front row alongside his teammate? Westy in 7th place. He's now coming around the final corner. Lakitu has found time and put it up into 6th place. So it's Williams, Red Bull and Ferrari in the top 6. But that's changed. Westy then up into 6th place. That's the session over. Our championship leader Louis takes pole position, 4 tenths ahead of his teammate. But the big talking point is Danny invalidating his final push lap and has failed to set a lap time. So I think Louis will be quite surprised to see Danny not on the top 10 leaderboard. It's a Williams 1-2 at the front of the field. Red Bull line up in 3rd and 5th. Midnight ahead of Toxic Tomato. T1000 Zach splits them in P4. And then it's Westy in 6th, Lakitu in 7th. Rounding out the top 10, both the racing points, Ash Best and Scott Bugner 8th and 10th. Harry B is the Haas meat in that sandwich. Ollie in 11th for McLaren. White Fountain, the last driver to set a lap time in P12, some 1.8 seconds off the pace. And no lap times from Cohen, Larkin, Danny or Josh. I'm going to take a very short break. I'll be back with you guys during the formation lap, where I do believe it is a full dry race. So the obligatory, should I say, if I don't have a stroke with my words, wait for allowing all the drivers to choose their make any changes to their setups or their race strategy has been adhered to. Sometimes you do see drivers unfortunately ready up a bit too early. They do get penalty points given to them by the stewards, the One Hub Racing stewards, but everyone has behaved himself quite nicely this time. 16 drivers started this session. We still have 16, so no one's left, no one has joined. And the championship permutations for the Pinnacle tier, if you can see the comments, and do look up and see what Josh has put. For those of it who haven't, Louis needs to outscore Danny by 11 points, 10 if Louis wins. So for an example, if Louis wins, Danny gets third without the fastest lap, Louis would be champion. Of course, there's still 2 more races to go after this as well, but Louis has done everything right so far, taking pole position at the end of qualifying, almost blowing it, but managing to just nip it at the very end. Unfortunately for Danny, they're down in 15th. He blew it on his final push lap, his only push lap as well, invalidating somewhere around the circuit. So it's Louis and Rafa then that will be leading the field away. We'll bring up the tyre graph in, and as I always say and will continue to say, if you qualify inside the top 10, you have to start on the tyres you set your best lap on. So all the top 10 then are on the soft tyres. Louis exploring the track limit somewhat on his formation lap. Rafa in second, Midnight in third, Zach, Toxic Tomato, Westy rounds out the top 6 of it. It's Lakito in the Ferrari, Ash Best in the first of the 2 racing points, Harry in the Haas, and Scott Bugner in the second pink and blue racing point. Ollie Flavel down in 11th. These guys have a free tyre choice, and he selected the soft tyres. White Fountain in 12th, his teammate Cohen in 13th, have gone for the mediums. Larkin also on the mediums. Same for Danny in 15th, for watch his progress through the field. Josh at the back, everything to gain, nothing to lose, has selected the soft tyres. Full dry race, softs and mediums, as long as we have no safety cars or virtual safety cars, will be the order of the day. You can go soft, medium, medium, soft, medium, soft, 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 medium. Doesn't matter which way, but all of these drivers have to make at least 2 pit stops. You can pit at the end of lap 1, you can pit going into your final lap, you can pit twice under the same safety car period. It doesn't matter how you do it, when you do it, or why you do it, but to avoid a disqualification, you have to make 2 pit stops. We had a new driver in the podium tier tonight making his debut. He won the race and then was immediately disqualified for only making 1 pit stop. So that's what happens if you fail to do 2. It's an instant disqualification by the stewards and you will receive no points. So the drivers then slowly making their way round back onto the grid, and this hopefully will be a very entertaining and enthralling 22 laps around Spa. It's a short burst to Lassource. Expect the field to spread out and fan out as they try to find a bit of tarmac, a bit of real estate for themselves, get their braking points right, hopefully not hit the car in front of them and damage their wing. Then it's another burst down to Eau Rouge, through there, Radion, and then along the Kemmel Straight. Louis will have his defensive shoes on for the first half of this lap. Both the Williams then on the front row of the grid, and Danny has got a lot of work to do to try and get up from the back of the field. All the drivers now on the grid. They've all synced up nicely. And here we go, a nice rearward shot for a change, looking at the back of Louis. 5 lights, out they go now, and it's a good start by Louis as well. Rafa will try to move over and try and find a bit of tarmac for himself as they make their way down into turn 1. Can we change camera angle? Yes, thank you. So it looks like everyone's managed to get through sort of okay, bunching up a little bit in the midfield as you would expect. Danny has already been pushed back to the back of the field, but Louis holds on to P1. He's got his teammate nicely behind him. Is anyone going to yeet it into the barriers on the exit of Radion on the lap 1? Doesn't look like it so far. And down then the Kemmel Straight, Louis is sort of in the middle of the road a little bit. Rafa, is he going to try and find his way past? He is up the inside of his teammate coming into Les Combes, but he backs out of it. Third place, Toxic Tomato. Lakitu 4th. Ash Best has made a great start up into P5. Harry as well into 6th. So Westy and Zach have been pushed down. Danny and White Fountain exchanging positions. I think White Fountain's off somewhere. Indeed he is. We've got yellow flags back in Les Combes. So these guys in the midfield are all scrabbling over a bit of a tarmac to try and find themselves. And Ollie then up into 9th place. Bugner remains inside the top 10. Midnight has lost a lot of positions somewhere. He's down in 11th place. So he's right in the thick of it at the moment, scrapping with the guys he doesn't really want to be. Cohen hanging on in 12th, Larkin, Josh in 13th, 14th, Danny still there in 15th, clean front end, so he'll be able to push on now. And White Fountain then has made a mistake somewhere. He's down at the back of the field with everything to do, but at the front then, coming out of Curva Port Frere and onto Blanchimont for the first of 22 times, Louis has converted his pole position into the race lead, backed up nicely by his teammate. Toxic Tomatoes hanging on bravely at the moment in P3, already already dropping Lakito a little bit. Has got Ashbest and Harry and Westy all close behind. Larkin and Cohen exchanging positions. Danny has managed to pass Josh as well for P4 as his comeback begins. And these drivers then all filter into the bus stop chicane. I think someone's just gone off to the right hand side in the pits. It's Toxic Tomato then. So Toxic Tomato into the pits early on. Don't know if he's having a front wing change. We'll have to wait and see as he makes his way into his pit box. Negative, it's no front wing change. So this is a strategic move early on. He's been brought in as well by Josh, getting off of those soft tyres straight away. Louis won't care. He's almost a second clear on the exit of Radion. Rafa holding on nicely in second. And with Toxic getting out of the way in third, there's now a big gap back to Lakitu in third. Jump on board at the racing point of Ashbest. Can he do anything about the Ferrari into Lacom? He can't. Further back, Harry, Westy, Zach, Ollie, all they're side by side. Ollie and Midnight. Who's going to win this battle? Ex-teammates, of course, and Midnight's had to take avoiding action and jump across the grass there on the left-hand side, but he's allowed Ollie through, who had the inside line, and now Midnight then dancing and weaving as Scott Bugner tries to force his way through as well. And just behind this lot is this man here, Danny, who doesn't want to be losing any time or bits of front wing as he tries to fight his way through the lower order of the top 10. He needs to make good on these medium tyres and try to get past as many people as possible. And he's got to be careful. He's got Larkin and Cohen hanging on. So Danny then in 11th, seeing these guys scrapping quite aggressively ahead of him. And with each passing corner, with each passing sector, with each passing lap, that gap between himself and Louis is getting bigger and bigger. And Danny needs a bit of a miracle here if he wants to keep his championship title hopes, these slim title hopes, alive. Running on board with the Mercedes driver, staring at the back of that racing point. He's getting a nice tow from Midnight, who in turn's getting a nice tow from Ollie Flavel ahead as well. Is Danny going to send it up the inside into the bus stop chicane? He's not, but he's going to try this round the outside. Very late on the brakes. I think Danny's going to possibly make contact as he comes back on the circuit. He does, but I think he's managed to get away with no damage. Rafa from P2 is in the pits. Same for Midnight as well. So some of these guys very early getting off of these soft tyres. That's promoted Danny a couple of positions. Scott going a little bit deep there into La Source hairpin, so he set himself up nicely for a DRS assisted move along the Kemmel straight. Scott is not going to be able to get the DRS or a nice tow from anyone ahead, and I think Scott Bugner has got to position his car somewhere on the track and stay there, and Danny is just going to sail nicely by. And there we go then, jump aboard at the racing point as the Mercedes goes on by. Nothing he can really do. Oh, and here comes Cohen with the dive bomb out of nowhere. Very cheeky move there from the Toro Rosso driver, but he's just about managed to make it stick, but it's still side by side. We'll jump aboard with Larkin. Contact's being made between them. Bugner's being forced off the circuit. He won't like that too much. And Cohen then very aggressive into Lacom, but he's managed to force his way through into P9. Danny then now up into P8, the first of the medium runners here. And these guys all slowly starting to close up on each other. Look at this. Zach is right up behind Westy, Harry, Lakitu and Ashbest now in P2. And Louis then has a 4-second lead over these guys. Now that Rafa and Toxic have politely jumped into the pits at the end of the first couple of laps. So Louis then unchallenged at the front. He can be left alone. And these guys are going to be scrapping over the next positions for the next few laps. Danny will close up pretty quickly on those medium tyres. The softs can last a few laps here, but these guys are getting off them nice and early. Strategy calls already coming into play. So no one is really close enough to try anything into the bus stop. Maybe Zach or Ollie might fancy it. Indeed they don't. We'll jump back on with Danny. More drivers in the pits. A lot of drivers there in the pits, including our race leader Louis. So Ashbest will take the lead of this race momentarily. Zach will be up into P2. Danny into P3. Cohen up into P4. And everyone else slowly making their way up the order. So Louis is in and back out on the medium tyres. He should be able to come back out, I think, just around where his teammate is. Where is Rafa? Well, Rafa's in the background, and in fact Rafa's being jumped. He's being jumped by Toxic Tomato, who's gone double stinting on the soft tyres. Okay, so he's going soft mediums, I would assume. So different strategy calls out there. Not everyone is copying each other. But Louis has comfortably got out ahead of Toxic Tomato, but that gap might start to decrease now that the Red Bull is on the soft tyres. Rafa P9 on the mediums. Lakitu, White Fountain, they're all swapping around as well. Midnight down in P12. He's also selected the soft tyres again. As has Josh. He started, I think, down in 16th. So some of these guys are double stinting the soft tyres. It's a free choice of what they can do. Of course, they have to run 2 different sets of compounds and pit twice, as per league and F1 rules. Scott Bugner, I believe, picks up the first noticeable penalty of the session, the 3-second time penalty for exceeding the track limits a few too many times. So Ash Best leads. He'll enjoy a lap at the front at least for the Racing Point team at Spa. Zach in P2 has a healthy gap to Danny behind, who hasn't closed up the gap too much on this lap, but it's a patient game for Danny. He's going to be doing something opposite to most of these guys to try and make his position work for him. Remember, Danny started in 15th place, failed to set a lap time. And the top 6 then yet to make a pit stop. Does anyone jump in this lap? Yep, race leader Ash Best is in. Zach continues. Danny, Cohen, Larkin all continue. Same for Scott Bugner, who started on the soft tyres. So Louis is essentially your net leader, but I think it'll be a while before we see him back at the front. Danny will probably go quite long on the mediums. He might be double stinting the softs in the second part of this race. Toxic, I'm trying to see if the gap is changing somewhat. It was 1.4 seconds. It's now up to 1.9. So Toxic is going backwards here rather than forwards on these soft tyres, because Rafa is now in DRS range, and we'll pick it up here. And Toxic had a very wild line there through Eau Rouge and Radion, so he'll be losing a bit more time along the straight. He's not close enough to Rafa for the Williams to put a move on, but Toxic will certainly know that the Williams is there. Meanwhile, Lakitu and Midnight, I think both have just managed to do a Zonta on poor old Ash Best there, with Midnight going left and Lakitu going right, and they're still side by side all the way through Lake-On. Don't make it free wide, Ash, please. That is suicidal. Nice clean racing from these guys there. Midnight just being squeezed out wide a little bit. We'll jump on board with Josh, see all this action from his point of view, as he loses a bit of time going through the corner with no name. So Midnight then on the soft tyres, behind 2 guys on the mediums, just picking up a bit of that dirty washy air. Yellow flags behind us as well. Someone's gone slow somewhere. So battles all around, up and down. Josh will want to stick to these guys, get a nice tow if he can along Blanchimont. Midnight very close to the back of Ash Best here. Might be thinking about a move into the bus stop chicane. Zach then, who held the lead for 1 lap, he's now in the pit, so that holds it on to Danny, who will be out there for a few laps left until he pits for the first time. Anyone going to send it into the bus stop chicane? No. Midnight did have half a look. Nikitu's got a little bit of a train behind him at the moment. Where will Scott Bugner and Zach rejoin in all of this? I think Zach will come out pretty much with these guys. We'll look on the right hand side. I'll be expecting a Ferrari to flash out of the pit lane exit anytime soon. There he is indeed. He'll fall behind Midnight, I think, but I think Josh will have to slot in behind Zach. So Zach immediately comes out the pits on a fresh set of medium tyres right in the middle of this battle. Through Radion again, lap 6 of 22. A lot has happened already, a lot more is going to happen, and poor old Lakitu here is going to be swallowed up. Ash Best manages to get past the DRS. Midnight just didn't have enough time to try, and there's about 5 or 6 cars here in a nice line as well. Very close battling between these guys, and there are plenty of opportunities around this circuit where you can go side by side. Pretty much from Radion all the way to about here, you can be side by side and hopefully keep it clean. So these guys are pitting at different times, going on to different tyre choices as well, so it won't become crystal clear until probably the second half of the race, and seeing who is where, what tyres and how many stops they've made, until we get a real clear picture of what's going on. The one thing I can say is that Louis will take the lead of this race once the top 3 do stop for the first time. After that, well, it's anyone's guess, isn't it? Certainly between these guys. Midnight needs to get a hurry up, make these soft tyres work. Lakitu won't give up the position easy, but Ash Best, I'm impressed by his performance so far tonight. He qualified well inside the top 10 in P8. Rose as high as 4th and 5th in the early couple of laps. He's already stopped once, and he's already running in P7 and pulling away a little bit from Lakitu. Midnight fancies chances into the bus stop chicane. He doesn't. Anyone else further behind? Zach went very deep there, but managed to hold it up. And look, this is an absolute train of about 7 or 8 cars here, fighting all the way from 7th down to I think 14th place. And the good news and bad news for these guys is, well, the good news is they're all in the tow, the slipstream in the DRS. The bad news is they're all getting off of each other, so it's going to be difficult, really. And whoever's at the front of the field, Ashbest in this case, he's the one in danger of losing positions over everyone else, because he's the one that's not going to be getting the DRS. So the Keto will be the first, but Midnight very close to the back of that Ferrari. As they both gain on the racing point. I think he's just enough ahead. He moves over to the middle of the circuit to try and defend a little bit. Oh, a bit of ghosting there, as there was almost contact between them. A little bit of tie to tie there between Lakitu and Midnight, but no harm, no foul. And Midnight picks up a 3-second time penalty for exceeding somewhere around Lacom. And these guys, I think, are going to be in a race-long battle. And these 50% races, only 22 laps around there. The fact they have to all pit twice, different tyres, different tyre compounds, different life cycles as well. You can see these guys scrapping for a majority of this race. Our little gap's starting to fall. Ollie's slipping off a little bit. And Josh is now 5 or 6 tenths back from Zach. But still keeping pace with these guys. It's great battles all the way through the midfield. So the second round of pit stops are starting to happen for these guys now. Midnight and Josh back into the pits, and I believe that is now, yeah, both Midnight and Josh are now down with their 2 stops. Back out onto the mediums. They'll now try and run these tyres to the end. Because of that, there's been a little bit of a field spread with these guys bunched up in the midfield. But Lakitu still giving chase to the racing point ahead. Meanwhile, further up, well, Ashbest is 4 seconds behind Rafa, who's still busy trying to force Toxic Tomato into a mistake, but Rafa's busy making mistakes by himself, running wide there. And Toxic will be in, I think, for his second pit stop sooner rather than later. Louis, clean air, starting to gain on the guys in front of him. Of course, all started on the medium tyres and have yet to make their first pit stop. Larkin, the first one, in P3. Curran then in P2, forced to start towards the back of the field after losing it, the car in qualifying in Puon. And then as his car came back onto the track, out of his control, I believe, poor old Josh down in 16th came round the corner, hit him, and both of them retired from the session. And then Danny, who will be enjoying this clean air at the moment, but he needs a positive result if he wants any chance of taking down the championship. Remember, Louis will win it tonight if he outscores Danny by either 10 or 11 points, depending on the fastest lap. And so far it is looking good for the Williams driver. He's the net leader once the top 3 do pit for the first time. And talking about pit stops, we might as well bring up how many they've done, as Toxic Tomato does indeed come in for the second time. So White Fountain's yet to make a pit stop, all the way down in 14th as well. I'm sure that's a mistake. But Midnight and Josh and now Toxic Tomato have completed their second stop. So this should be a switch onto the medium tyres, as everyone in the midfield now pushes their way through. So the Red Bull driver back out on circuit. And the Red Bulls then have now both completed 2 pit stops. They both started well inside the top 5. They're running 13th and 14th. Do ignore it though, because these guys will slowly start to move back through the field. Same for Scott Buckner as well. And we've got Harry and Westy exchanging positions for 9th and 10th. Haas and Renault cars always seem to be together on track at some point. And Ollie as well running in P11 can sniff a potential point or 2 here. Oh, late on the brakes there though. A big lock up on the front right wouldn't have done him any good. He's definitely hustling and bustling this McLaren car for all of its worth, and so far all it's getting him is P11. So I think he's going to be a bit frustrated. Westy getting a little bit out of shape there in Puon, and Harry getting a bit out of shape as well on the exit. So these guys really pushing. Meanwhile, the Ferraris now find themselves together on track. Different strategies. Still together on track. P7 and P8 both giving chase to the racing point of Ash ahead on those medium tyres. Another quick check at the fastest lap, if I can bring it up. There it is there. So we have a different rule in one hub. We have, of course, the fastest lap. You finish inside the top 10 and pick up the fastest lap. You gain an extra championship point. That's a rule that's in F1. That's a rule that one hub has. But we also have another rule, the second fastest lap, what I like to call bracket 2. This involves all the drivers classified from 11th down. So whether there's 11 people or 20 people finishing, it doesn't matter. If you're in that bracket and you set the fastest lap of those drivers from 11th down that are classified, you also gain a championship point. And it's brought in to sort of stop people running in position nowhere with 3 laps to go for just retiring, throwing in the towel because they've got nothing to aim for. They could be a lap down from the point. Well, there's no point carrying on. I'm not going to score any points. There is pit with a few laps to go. Put on a fresh set of soft tyres, try and score the fastest lap for that bracket, and you will gain an extra championship point. A few drivers have used it to their advantage already, so it does work. These drivers are aware of it, so don't be surprised to see some of the back markers pit with a couple of laps to go to maybe try and steal the fastest lap. Meanwhile, Ash carrying on then in P6, both the Ferraris behind him. The race has calmed down somewhat. Meanwhile, Louis slowly starting to make his way back to the front of the field. He's managed to get past Larkin and it's Curran in the last couple of laps. And his medium tyres obviously working very nicely. He'll probably be in again, I think, in the next 3 or 4 laps for a set of mediums, or he might go long, put on a set of softs towards the end to try and steal the fastest lap. Who knows? Meanwhile, Danny, his intentions are quite clear. Go long on the first stint of mediums. Might be double stinting on the soft tyres towards the end. Or indeed, he might go for a second set of mediums, then pit towards the end of the race and try to take the fastest lap. Many questions out of it. I'm sure we'll have some answers at the end of the race. Well, we're almost halfway through. And there's still a lot of action left to come. A lot of pit stops left to come. Probably some more overtakes. Maybe an incident or two as Larkin makes his first pit stop. Coming in from P4. Kept it nicely clean, travelling around the circuit with Cohen, who's probably on a similar strategy. Rafa makes his way past, the rest of the midfield will as well. So Larkin will drop down outside of the top 10 as he makes his way onto the soft tyres. So he might be double stinting softs, we'll have to wait and see. Scott Bugner might get the jump on the McLaren as well. We'll have a look on pit exit. Nope, Larkin is out comfortably ahead. So that promotes his teammate into P10. He's now lost time to Harry and Westy ahead. He was right with him a couple of laps ago. Now he's a second and a half back. Meanwhile, Ash Best is being swallowed up by the DRS assisted Ferraris. Lakitu's managed to get his way past and Zach tried to hold it around the outside until they come. Ash Best said, "No sir, I will defend this position. I will battle you." And this is a nice little battle here for 5th, 6th and 7th. Bit of puff of smoke there from Lakitu as he drags the car wide. Scott Bugner picks up another 3-second penalty as Ash Best's turn to kick up a little bit of dust. We'll check the pit stops again, see what's going on. So yeah, White Fountain is yet to make his first pit stop and finds himself a long way at the back of the field. Danny and Cohen obviously have yet to make their first pit stop. Both the Red Bulls and Josh down in 13th, 14th, 15th have completed both stops and do not need to pit again. So still a lot going on. Position changes as well. Well, Danny, of course, coming from the back of the field to leading the race momentarily. He would have gained 14 positions, but will drop down once he makes a pit stop. Same for Cohen. He's yet to make a pit stop, which is why his positions gained is so high. And Midnight has lost the most, 11. Same for Toxic with 8. But again, of course, they have already made their second stop. So people will be moving up and down the order as this goes on. Cohen from P3 comes in for the first time, but Danny's still going on. So it's looking more and more clear that he's going to be double stinting the soft tyres. Rafa then promoted back up into the podium positions. You've got yellow flag in sector 3. That's because Toxic Tomato is going very slowly. Has he got any damage on that front wing? Did he lose it by himself? Did he make contact? Well, the answer to damage is yes. The front left wing plate is missing. So he is going to be in the pits for the 3rd time. Not too sure if he lost it by himself or had contact with anyone around him. I think the closest person to him was his own teammate. So it's bad news for Toxic Tomato. Good qualifying position has now been ruined and he's decided to retire as well out of frustration. We do ask the drivers, if you are going to retire, try and do it in the pit lane. It reduces the chance of bringing out a safety car or a virtual safety car. We don't mind them, of course, being out on circuit if there has been an incident, but deliberately crashing or stopping on the side of a track is not really a good idea. We've got yellow flags again around Lake Com. I think that's Cohen going slowly, so we've already lost Toxic Tomato and now the Toro Rosso of Cohen going slowly. He's only recently been in as well for the first time. In fact, he pitted and the previous lap. He's already been off the circuit, damaged that front wing as well. So Cummins going to be making 2 pit stops in 2 laps. Pretty much writes off any chance him or indeed his team have of scoring points. Danny Venn, lap 12 of 22. Does he decide this lap is the lap to come into the pits? The answer is yes. The Mercedes pulls off to the right hand side. Be careful to not hit the pit lane wall. It's a tricky entrance. Careful not to speed. It's a tricky line. He achieves both nicely. Straight into garage number 1. Late call, I think. The mechanics are still getting ready. Soft tyres go on. And Danny, I think, should come out. He will hope anyway to come out ahead of Ash Best. That will be the best case scenario for him. The worst case scenario will be coming up behind those 3 guys. So we'll jump aboard at the racing point. Where is Danny? Where is Danny? There is Danny. So he is out ahead in P3. But Ash will have the DRS. So he'll gain all the time down the straight. Oh, but Ash getting a bit out of shape there for Eau Rouge. Will he try and move on Danny for P3? He's got to be careful because Lakitu is close behind. Danny might have to defend a little bit. Just moves the car around, making it clear that a good idea to not pass me. Leave me alone. I'm on a fresh set of soft tyres. You're on a used set of mediums. I am going to disappear. So Danny Vent, P3. Still yet to make his second pit stop. I think most people still yet to make their second pit stop. Yeah, top 11 then all need to be in again. So we're starting to get a bit of a clearer picture now. Danny has done well, running in the clean air at the front of the field for several laps and being away from the hustling and bustling of the midfield squabbles. Has now finds himself essentially in a net P3 here. The top 11 all need to stop again. Yes, they're on different tyres. Yes, different tyre lives, but this is sort of the net positions we're looking at the moment. Danny might start to make some inroads into Rafa. It's a very used set of medium tyres that Williams' car is running, and Louis will probably be pitting in the next few laps as well. So Danny might retake the lead of this race. 1 to 2 Williams pit, but then he'll have to do the same as well. So the order will continue to chop and change, but this is a good indication of where we stand in the race so far. And yeah, Ashbest, really strong performance so far from the racing point. Scott has fallen away a little bit. Westy now in the pits for the second time, so that will drop him down the order. Midnight, meanwhile, he was one of the first to pit for the second time. He's only running in 12th place. And his medium tyres will be pretty battered by the end of this race as well. So the race for Red Bull hasn't gone too well. Toxic's already retired. Midnight struggling to get himself back inside the top 10. So further up, Ashbest then finally loses another position as Lakitu with the DRS makes a nice, cool, calm, calculated pass into Lecom. Danny has disappeared, as you would expect, being on those super grippy soft tyres. He'll probably pit again in the next 3 to 4 laps and go again on another set of soft tyres. And he might catch Rafa. I don't think he can do too much about Louis. And that's going to make things very difficult, because if Louis wins this race, Danny will need P2 to keep his slim chances alive. If the race was to end now, Louis would be champion, which is no easy feat in just a 10 race season to win it after round 8. It just shows that that race that Danny missed and that same race Louis won really almost was the nail in the coffin, you'd have to say. If it wasn't for that and Danny was here, maybe even won the race and pushed Louis down to second, things would be a lot different. But such is the way of the world. It's Lakitu, Ash and Zach carry on 4th, 5th and 6th, all pretty comfortable with each other, all running similar pace, similar tyre strategies as well. Just a lap or two difference between all 3 of them. None of them decide to pit this lap. Harry though, he is coming in from P7, so that promotes Larkin back into 7th, and Ollie down in 11th picks up a 3-second time penalty. So Harry then now in for his second stop. Same for Scott Bugner as well, so that will now promote Midnight back up the order a little bit, but he's got Ollie right up behind him. He might try something here into La Source, but you'll have to be aware that if he is ahead, that Midnight will have the DRS. And don't be surprised if you see a driver or two do a little sneaky thing, which is intentionally run wide at La Source to allow the car behind through, because then, as you're seeing here, Midnight is the one with the bigger toe and the DRS, and will take that position back. So don't be surprised in the last lap or the last couple of laps, people that are fighting over position might intentionally let the car behind through on the exit of turn 1, just so they can have DRS along the Kemmel straight, which is a risk because if they make a mistake they can't capitalise on it, and they're essentially giving a position away. But I've seen it before, don't be surprised if we see it again. So Larkin up into 7th, Midnight then now into 8th, back past Ollie. He's been pushed back down to 9th. Josh rounding out the top 10. These guys further down here have all made 2 pit stops, apart from White Fountain, I believe, has only made the 1. So Louis then continues to extend his gap over his teammate, 8.1 seconds now. His second pit stop is imminent. Danny is catching Rafa. The gap is now below 2 seconds, so maybe another couple of more laps. If Rafa decides to not pit, Danny will be within striking distance with the DRS. Indeed, Rafa decides to not pit, Danny carries on as well. So the key to 11 laps completed, he's going to carry on. Ashbest and Zach, I think, yeah, both of these two have decided, but it's time for them to make their second call to their mechanics. Neither of them speed into the pit lane. A speeding penalty now would ruin your race somewhat, the 5 seconds. So Zach going on to the soft tyres. What's Ashbest doing? He's also going on to the soft tyres. So we're seeing soft, medium, 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 soft, soft. And we're seeing soft, medium, soft here with these two. Larkin also in, Ollie Flavel in. Oh, both the McLarens are in. So is Ollie going to get held up here a little bit? I think he should be okay. The mechanics are reassembling. Is he being held? Yes, for a few seconds. So I think Larkin, unfortunately, has had an off somewhere. And poor old Ollie's lost a few seconds. We've got yellow flags in Sector 2, Sector 3. That's White Fountain. He's had another spin. And it really has been a poor season from the Toro Rosso driver. So we'll have a quick look. I'm pretty sure Larkin's now made 3 stops. No, he's now made 2. So apart from White Fountain, who's at the back of the field and a long way off, the top 4 still need to make their second pit stop, I should say. Everyone else has. So Midnight then is now back up into P5. But he's only got a couple of seconds back to Ashbest, Zach and Westy, who have now put on the soft tyres to run to the end. So I think Midnight will get caught by these guys. And he's going to have to put his defensive shoes on if he wants to remain inside the top 5. The key to vote, he should come out around where his teammate was as well. And we'll wait to see what Danny does when he pits. I'm sure it'll be a set of soft tyres, and the same for Louis and Rafa, I think, as well. I think these two are definitely going to be going on to the soft tyres. But Danny's found 6 tenths this lap, and Rafa says, no, you're catching me, I don't want to help you, so I'm going to choose this lap to get out of the way. And I'm pretty sure that Rafa will be in now for a set of soft tyres. Just 6 laps to go around it. And Rafa will probably come out, I think, ahead of Midnight. Should come out ahead of Midnight. Lakitu in P4 also coming in for the second time. So it should be soft tyres then for the Williams. Indeed it is. Soft tyres as well for the Ferrari. And Midnight might get the jump on Lakitu here. But you have to remember Midnight is on a used set of medium tyres that he's now got to carry towards the end of the race. And indeed, Lakitu is jumped by Midnight, and look at this, he's going to come out. Ashbest is going to get the jump on him. Oh, contact between the 2 Ferraris, and more contact as well. Who's going to win this battle going into Eau Rouge? So a bit of wheel banging and argy-bargy there between the Ferrari guys. Lakitu, I think, wants to move over to the middle of a circuit to try and block his teammate, and Zach was already there, and here comes Lakitu straight away with the DRS round the outside of the racing point. And a little bit of a lock up there from Ashbest as well. So Lakitu, contact with his teammate, a few naughty words I think would have been exchanged between the two of them, and now Lakitu is in a prime position here as he runs very wide through the right hander. Lakitu then just over a second behind Midnight, and now the Ferrari is on a set of nice soft tyres. Exceeding track limits, a 5-second penalty for White Fountain. His evening continues to get worse and worse. So Lakitu then will be dragging Ashbest and Zach along with him. Oh, a bit of snap over the steer there from the Ferrari. Same for Ashbest as well. These guys are pushing really hard now. And Zach there in P7 wants to try and get past the racing point. Westy is looking on as well. He can challenge as well. His soft tyres, a couple of laps older, but should be okay. So I think we're going to see a lot of aggressive driving from these guys here. Meanwhile, at the front, Danny is in for the second time. Another set of soft tyres. So it's going to be crucial to see where he rejoins in place in relation to Rafa. Rafa should, I think, stay ahead. Indeed he does. And Danny coming out the pits. There goes the Williams. So now it's a straight fight between these two for P2 and P3. Midnight back in 4th, won't challenge the podium, and he's got to be defending from Lakitu, Ashbest, Zach and Westy as well. And he's far enough ahead this lap to not be in danger of the DRS. So Lakitu got past Ashbest in the previous lap. I think Ashbest is going to return the favour here. Coming down the Kemmel straight, ducks out of the slipstream. Does this the hard way around the outside, but gets the move done before the braking zone. And that racing point is really putting up a fight to the Ferraris, who made contact just a couple of laps ago. Midnight in 4th kicks up a little bit of dust. So Danny Bent now right up behind Rafa. Things stand the way they are. I think the title will be decided in Louis' favour. But if Danny can somehow get ahead of Rafa, then he will keep it alive going into next week's race. But at that point, I think it will be 52 points to play for, and the gap will be something like 49. So it's Danny, essentially, if he gets past here into 2nd place, it's just delaying the inevitable. Of course, Louis could fail to score in the final 2 races, and Danny wins both and picks the fastest lap up, and it will be the shock of all shocks. But Danny's got to think about how he's going to get past the Williams. Rafa's had a very stop-start season. 1 week he's been on the pace and challenging for wins and podiums. In other weeks he's been scrapping around for the lower points. The Williams driver has only had 1 podium so far this season. He's looking good for podium number 2. Yellow flag in sector 3. That's a racing point on the map, going slowly. So that'll be Scott Bugner's had an incident. New fastest lap for Rafa, a 45.125. But here we go then. This will be the first opportunity that Daniel will have to get up into P2. He's close enough already. Probably wouldn't even need the DRS along the Kemmel straight to get this move done. Nice line through there as well. Where's Rafa going to go? Well, he made his decision late. And Danny, I think, gave him a little bit of a tow. Nice rearward camera here, as he does sail on by past the Williams. So as it stands, the championship will not be decided. Danny has done a good job here, a good recovery drive up into P2. Meanwhile, Ashbest is now fighting with Midnight for P4, and again Midnight running off the road here. It's not the first time we've seen that. Scott Bugner has pulled into the pits to retire after his spin, and Midnight is really going to struggle here in these final few laps. Was running in P4. Ashbest has already got past. Lakitu will try to force his way through at some point. Zach as well, very racy. Westy sticking with them just about. Harry though, 2.8 back. He won't be a factor, I don't think. So poor old Midnight then. He's really got to flex his muscles here and make that Red Bull as wide as possible. Meanwhile, Zach there just dancing out from behind his teammate. No love lost between these two this race. Changing up early into 4th gear as well. Trying to settle the car, balance the car nicely. Now running along Blanchimont. Midnight will get a nice tow from the back of Ashbest, but Lakitu might fancy his chances into the bus stop chicane. Meanwhile, race leader Louis in the pits with a set of soft tyres. He'll comfortably rejoin in the lead of this race. And these guys all so close together. Ashbest will be able to keep hold of his P4 down into La Source, even with a little bit of a DRS that you get along the main straight here. But the main overtaking area is into the Lacombe chicane at the end of the Kemmel straight. Decent exit by Ash. Let's see what Lakitu is going to do against Midnight. I think we could see Midnight challenge Ashbest here, and Lakitu possibly challenge them both. Jump back with Lakitu. This will get us the best view. What does Ashbest do? Makes his intentions early, sticks to the inside. Midnight will try this around the outside. Can he get the braking done? Is he going to run wide again? He doesn't, and Midnight really hustling and bustling to try and keep hold of that P4. And Ash has got to think of another way. He might try and find another way to get past around this circuit and then try to break away. A great little battle here for 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th. Westy has now joined this battle. So 5 cars here scrapping over 4th position. And I think Westy needs to just bide his time a little bit here. I think there's a general feeling there's going to be contact at some point between these two. Danny picks up a 3-second time penalty, so it could still all change. I don't think Rafa has any penalties yet. And Danny, they're nearly 2 seconds ahead, so if he can find another second and a little bit more in the last couple of laps, then he will keep that 2nd place. I'm pretty sure Rafa doesn't have any penalties. Danny as you can see just there, has at least 3. And these guys still in a line. I said that these guys could be battling all race, even though they're on different tyres and different strategies. They will all end up concertinaing up before the end. Zach went very deep there into the bus stop chicane. Might come under attack from Westy, who tries the cut back, but they'll all have DRS coming down into La Source. So maybe this is Westy's opportunity to turn the wick up a little bit, start applying a bit of pressure to the car ahead. And out of La Source again. We'll come back to Ashbest. Gap between Danny and Rafa now over 2 seconds, but he needs to find another second in the last 2 laps. So far we've seen no one bin it on the exit of Radion. And Ashbest with the DRS. It should be an easy, cool, calm move up the inside. Yellow flags in sector 2. Not too sure whose that's for. The leaders are still going nicely, so you don't need to worry about that. So Ashen back up into P4, and it could very well come down to who's ahead at the exit of Lecom on the next lap, which could very well be Midnight if he manages to get past with a DRS on lap 22, and he might just hold down that P4. Meanwhile, back at the front, Harry down in 9th picks up a 3-second time penalty. That could lose him a potential point or 2. Rafa then is now 2.5 seconds behind Danny. And Danny knows he's got to get the hurry up. We'll have a look at the fastest laps as it stands. So it's being held by Danny. Louis might improve that though, as this is his first full lap on these tyres. So we'll bring up all of the details, all of the data that we need to see. And Louis then into and out of the bus stop chicane that's been remodified many times over the years. Crosses the line. So 1:46.289. Is that the fastest lap of the race? No, it's not. In fact, it's slower than what he's done before. So he might very well push on the final lap to try and claim the fastest lap. He's lapped White Fountain, I think, there in the background. And Danny now just 2.6 seconds ahead of Rafa. It's going to be oh so close once he crosses the line to see if he keeps hold of that P2. If Louis manages to steal the fastest lap on the final lap and Danny loses P2 due to that 3-second penalty, then the championship will be over. It will be finished and Louis will be crowned your champion for this season. So this is literally going to come down to the wire here. Ash in 4th. This is it, the final lap. He needs to try and defend this, because if Midnight gets past here into the braking zone for Lecom, then he won't have a chance of P4, and indeed Midnight manages to make the position stick. We've got yellow flags again going on in sector 2. I think it's just the Toro Rosso going slowly. So this battle is not over here, but I think that Midnight has just done what he needed to do, be the car ahead at the end of the Kemmel Straight on the final lap. And Ashbest has got to actually send it somewhere in the braking zone, maybe the bus stop chicane on the final lap, to try and claim back that P4. But Midnight's done a very good job on those used medium tyres to hold on to that P4 ahead of Ashbest and both of the Ferraris. He made contact a few laps ago. Westy has dropped off a little bit, and Rafa picks up a 3-second time penalty, so that's possibly killed any opportunity he had of claiming the P2 here and allowing his teammate to win the titles. Here comes Louis then. It's been a great drive for my championship leader. He hasn't been challenged at all. He's done everything he needed to do. It's the race win. It's also the fastest lap. Danny crosses the line in P2. If he keeps that P2, the championship stays alive. Indeed he does. We go into next week with possibly Louis winning the title there. And this battle won't be sorted out either. Look how close they are coming across the line. But Midnight does a great job holding on to P4, but then loses all of his hard work with a 3-second penalty. Look at that, all the way down to P8. Larkin with 9th, and Josh picks up the final point of P10. Harry in 11th, and we wait for Cumming in 12th, Ollie 13th, White Fountain already classified a lap down in P14. We'll have a quick look at the pit stops. You can see there, everyone completed 2 pit stops. Ollie did 3. So Louis then wins the race with the fastest lap, but Danny has managed to keep the slimmest of championship hopes alive. I think Louis now needs 3 or 4 points in the next 2 races to seal the title. Rafa completes the podium. We just wait for Ollie then to make his way around Blanchimont, bus stop chicane and across the line. Unfortunate for Midnight, he put up such a good defensive job there at the end by getting back that P4. Unfortunately, a time penalty for him. Sees all that hard work undone all the way down into 8th place. So Oliver, now the final corner, he'll be, I think, pretty disappointed with his performance tonight, as he does a nice little spin for us in front of the grandstand. So congratulations there to Louis. Danny in second place, Rafa in third. The constructors could have been settled tonight. Williams needed to outscore Mercedes by 30 points, 29 if a Williams wins. So I think it might have been done. Let's see, 25, 30, 40 points. The 80 there would be, what's that, if I could do my maths very quickly, 22. So no, it hasn't happened. So the Constructors and the Drivers' Championships will probably be settled next week. Could have happened tonight, but Danny and Rafa there with the 3-second penalty. In fact, if Rafa didn't pick that up on the last lap, then the title would have been over. But congratulations to the top 5. Very good job by Danny, 15th back up into 2nd. Ashbest, very good drive from him, 8th up into 4th place as well. Lakitu and Zach, 5th and 6th. Westy in 7th. They all kept it clean. Midnight's 3-second penalty drops him from 4th all the way down into 8th. Larkin from 14th on the grid up into 9th. And Josh from the back of the grid in 10th. Harry, It's Cohen, Ollie, White Fountain all classified. Scott Bugner and Toxic Tomato were late race retirements. So as we make our way back to the lobby, and it's just been brought to my attention that Williams are Constructors Champions then. So have I got that wrong? Has my maths failed me? Possibly so. The maths are being added up now. So we'll have a look in a second and see if Williams have been crowned as Constructors Champions. They need to be, at this point in time, they need to be, I think, 86 points at least ahead or something like that. And I think they might very well be 85, 86 points, something like that. I think they might have won it. So Williams could very well be Constructors Champions. If it's decided tonight or next week, it doesn't really matter too much. They was always going to win it anyway. Same at Louis is pretty much already going to win the title. It's just a matter of when, not if. So the final thing I have to do, for leave all you wonderful people, is come up with my 2 nominations for the Driver of the Day vote. As a solo commentator, yeah, I have to come up with both nominations by myself. Usually I'll go for the race winner, but I think there's been 2 really good performances today that deserve a mention. So I'm not going to go for the race winner. So yeah, the first one is going to be for Danny. Yes, he did sort of muck up in qualifying. He left it late to do his push lap and he made an invalidation. So that's sort of on him, really. But he started in 15th. He kept it clean, went for a completely different strategy. And in the clean air, found some lap times that he needed to come back to finish in P2 and keep his Slim Championship hopes alive. So my first vote goes to the Mercedes of Danny. My second vote goes to Ashbest in the Racing Point. Qualified in 8th, finished in 4th after penalties. But he put up a really, really good defensive fight against the Ferrari guys. Didn't let himself get bullied out of the way. Used the DRS to his advantage when everyone around him was using it to theirs, and he's managed to claim back the P4 that I think is rightfully his after Midnight's 3-second time penalty. And Ashbest, probably the best overall performance I've seen from that driver so far this season. He's certainly blown hot and cold, but tonight put a very strong performance in for P4. So my 2 votes, which will be announced by OneHub on Twitter in the next couple of days, will be for Danny and Ashbest. So do go along and vote for your driver who you think is worthy of the Driver of the Day nominations. So the gap between Williams and Mercedes is 85 points after the match has been done. This is all before penalties, of course, but I don't think there will be any, and it's currently 85 points. 86 is the maximum. So I think Louis needs 2 points, 2 or 3 points or something like that to win the title. Williams only need the 1. So it's pretty much all over and done with, and hopefully Louis can seal both titles for himself and the team at his home race next week at Silverstone. So thank you very much to everyone that has tuned in, and I'll see you guys at 8:30 next week for round 9 at Silverstone.